Have you ever wondered how inflation impacts your everyday spending? Well, let's start from the basics. Inflation is the rate at which the general level of prices for goods and services is rising. It's measured by the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, which tracks the prices of a basket of goods and services over time. Now, you might be thinking, is inflation a bad thing? Surprisingly, not always. A certain amount of inflation is actually a sign of a healthy economy. It indicates that the economy is growing. However, when inflation rates get too high, that's when things can go south. High inflation can erode the purchasing power of money, meaning your hard-earned dollars might not go as far tomorrow as they did today. Now that you understand what inflation is, you might be wondering how it directly impacts your wallet. Let's dive in. Consider Jane a regular city dweller with a monthly budget for groceries, utilities, and occasional luxuries. Jane starts to notice that her grocery bill has been creeping up in the past year, even though she's buying the same items. It's not a drastic increase, but it's noticeable and it's starting to squeeze her budget. What Jane is experiencing is the impact of inflation. Inflation, in simple terms, is the rate at which the general level of prices for goods and services is rising. Let's break down Jane's spending to get a clearer picture of how this works. Jane spends, let's say, $500 a month on groceries. Now imagine a 2% inflation rate. It doesn't sound like much, right? But this means that over the course of a year, Jane's grocery bill increases by about $10 a month. That's an additional $120 a year. Now, consider that this is just groceries. Factor in utilities, rent, transportation, and those occasional luxuries Jane likes to treat herself to, and the costs start to add up. Jane's purchasing power, the amount of goods or services that one unit of currency can buy, is decreasing. The same dollar that bought her a loaf of bread last year now only gets her, let's say, 3/4 of a loaf. This is the reality of inflation. It's like a hidden tax that chips away at your purchasing power. It makes everyday items more expensive, and it's a critical factor to consider when planning your finances. It's worth noting that inflation isn't inherently bad. It's a natural part of a growing economy. But it does mean that the cost of living will increase over time. And that's why it's so important to plan for it in your long-term financial strategy. As you can see, even a small inflation rate can significantly affect your everyday spending over time. So, what does this mean for you and your everyday spending? In the simplest of terms, inflation is like an invisible tax that slowly chips away at your purchasing power. Picture this. Today, you could walk into your favorite store and buy a loaf of bread for $1. Fast forward a year or so, and that same dollar might only get you 3/4 of a loaf. This is inflation at work. It's subtle, but over time it adds up. Understanding inflation is more than just grasping a financial concept. It's about realizing that the money in your pocket today might not stretch as far tomorrow. It's about recognizing that inflation can make the everyday items we rely on more expensive. And most importantly, it's about learning how to plan for the future and manage your finances in a way that keeps you afloat even when the cost of living rises. Remember, understanding inflation and its impact on your spending is a crucial step in financial literacy. Stay informed, stay prepared, and keep your finances healthy.